Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. I am Matt Johnson, and for this episode you join us for another one of those good old deep dives. In this episode we will be looking into a number of key areas, namely those being the acquisition of Sheffield Wednesday by Dejphon Chansiri, wider Thai investment in English football and their business associates whose interest extends far beyond the world of Sheffield 6, namely those that have remained nameless for too long, those trusted advisors. It's important to stress that at the time of this video being released, Sheffield Wednesday exists in a state of paralysis. Following a decade of control by Dear Dej, the club is now riddled and unable to pay its debts, to pay staff and players consistently. A home ground and a training ground that has seen many a better decade, let alone better days, and a fan base who have for too long been told to eat it and like it. Indeed, this season marks Sheffield Wednesday's 26th outside the top flight. This didn't develop overnight. The situation is as a result of a sustained period of bad money for slow horses, poor ownership, a lack of transparency, inconsistent decision making, and a complete lack of responsibility, as we will learn in this video, a lack of footballing expertise in the right areas. It has widely been stated the situation at Sheffield Wednesday is a disaster that is all of the owners' making, but one that has certainly been aided by individuals who have preyed on a naive fool and his money. So before we get started, all of the information that we will discuss in this truly terrifying bedtime story is publicly available information. Corporate record, media reports and social media posts. It is also important to preface this with the opinions shared are that of the fans. Discussions that people are having on the terraces, in pubs, at work, at their children's football matches, because this football club means too much to all of us. They make up an incredibly complex jigsaw puzzle, a trail of breadcrumbs so fine that putting the information together is painstaking and time-consuming. But, as we all learned from our video on one of the chairman's inner circle, Amadou Paixão, it really is amazing what football fans with overactive imaginations and a will to see their football club endure and survive will produce. So to begin with, we will take a look and go all the way back to how Thai money was introduced into English football. Thai involvement and East Asian involvement in British football is now nothing new, but let's roll the clock back to the year 2010, when Milan Mandaric sold Leicester City to Thai businessman Vishai and his son Ayawat. This in earnest marked the start of a deepening relationship between Thai investors and English clubs, including our dearly beloved Sheffield Wednesday. This, on the whole, was a success story, as Leicester were transformed under Thai investment from a mid-table championship side to Premier League champions inside of 3 years. A true fairy tale, financed and orchestrated by Thai money. But how did Thai money find its way into the English game? Well, to answer that, you don't have to look too far from home. Enter stage left, Sir Dave Richards. Former Sheffield Wednesday chairman and later Premier League chairman, he is the man, amongst other things, that we have to thank for this. Our Dave had been a busy boy making connections to several Thai figures. The most opportune time for him to do this was during Thaksin Shinawatra's ill-fated tenure at Manchester City. Our Dave wasted no time in building bridges with long-standing associates of Shinawatra. Shinawatra went on to sell to the Saudis and was also once upon a time Prime Minister of Thailand between the years 2001 and 2006. Incidentally, Shinawatra has since been convicted of abuse of power and sentenced to 2 years in prison. It must be said that he has since been pardoned for his crimes. One of the individuals that swirled around Shinawatra at the time was one Pairoj Piempong Sant, the director of a company called Empire Asia. Remember the name and the surname, to be precise. And in fact, in 2009, in a Guardian article, when Shinawatra was rumoured to be taking over Portsmouth, the club had to come out and state that neither were involved in the impending takeover of the club. Indeed, Sir Dave allegedly told Pairoj to leave a meeting held at the Champions League final in Rome. Anyway, fast forward to 2013, and everything was ticking along nicely for our Dave, who was now out of the top job in the Premier League and acting as an advisor to Leicester on financial fair play. In an investigation in The Guardian by the wonderful David Conn in 2016, he unearthed Leicester's circumventing of financial fair play rules and regulations. Now, I won't bore you with the full details of it, but they're the same rules and regulations in principle that Manchester City have also been investigated for. It was suggested that in 2013, our Dave was acting as an advisor to Leicester. Dave Jr., however, rejected this as all paper talk. The increase in turnover at Leicester was down to marketing contracts. One, a company called Tristellar. Incidentally, it was owned by our Dave's son and daughter, and whose name derives from our Dave's engineering company, 3 Star Engineering. The companies were thought to have bid inflated marketing contracts, taking Leicester's commercial revenue and income from 5.2 million to 16 million, thus substantially reducing Leicester's loss, which otherwise would have incurred a hefty fine. It enabled Leicester to sidestep FFP through creative accounting. For more info, I really would encourage you to seek the article out, and it makes for some fascinating reading. Leicester, it must be said, benefited from this meteoric rise, and under Thai ownership and investment they were transformed from a championship team to Premier League champions. The rise encouraged further Thai investment, and soon Reading and Sheffield Wednesday would be taken over by Thai businessmen. Now I hear you ask, Matt, that's great, but how does all of this link to Sheffield Wednesday? Well, sit tight, I promise we are getting there. For the purpose of this next section, however, you have to tie Reading and Sheffield Wednesday takeovers together. The sands of time have now revealed just how intrinsically tied the two clubs are. In September 2014, Reading were acquired by Narin Nuritharan, the son of Thai Union Foods co-founder Cheng. He purchased 50%, and other Thai investors held the remaining stake. The man who helped to facilitate the deal was a one Pairoj Piempong Sant. Remember him? He's our Dave's mate. Well, 4 months later, dear Dej arrived in Sheffield. Incidentally, he's the son of the other Thai Union Foods co-founder. Both of Thai descent and only 4 months apart. Another similarity is that neither Narin nor Dej knew a thing about football ownership. Some would argue that Dej still doesn't. Now, at the time of Dej's takeover, the EFL reportedly looked into the question of whether there was joint interest in Reading and Sheffield Wednesday, and would this breach the owner and directors test? Alas. The findings of that test and the EFL investigation did not turn up sufficient evidence, and both deals received a stamp of approval after assurances of independence in the deals. Now, it's been suggested the two sons of the two founders of one of the biggest global food exporters in the world is surely the link that needs to be looked at, right? But just pause for a second. With the benefit of hindsight, it could be said that actually the football paleontologists who were doing the digging were in the right area. But actually, should they have been looking into family history and the obvious connections through TUF? Or should it have been those who facilitated the deals? This brings us back to Pairoj and his company Empire Asia, a Thai investment group. He played a pivotal role in the Reading takeover. Of this, there is no doubt. Once upon a time, Pairoj was the go-to man for getting Thai money into English football. If you want to invest, Pairoj is your man. He was frequently found in the director's box at Reading, in several pictures around the club on match days. It is irrefutable that he was around Reading at the time of the deal. Several local journalists called for the club to speak up and explain what his role was, while wondering aloud, what does he do? So now into the thick stuff. The reason why, as a Wednesday fan, you clicked onto this video, and in January 2015, dear Dej rolled into town and purchased Sheffield Wednesday. From the outset, alarm bells were ringing as to the true nature of the origins of his money. Most assumed at the time, that, and indeed media outlets reported, that TUF, the global seafood company founded by his dad, was directly involved. At his first press conference, Chansiri spoke in front of a TUF-branded board. Why would you do so? Is it just because you are proud of the legacy of your father's company? Or, as some have speculated, was it to add credibility and legitimacy to your takeover? A business people can gravitate towards. The blunt fact is the Chansiri family holds about 19% of TUF shares, with dear Dej owning less than 1% and holding no executive role in the company. TUF quickly came out to distance themselves, stating that they were not involved in the football club. Dear Dej was quick to insist that the takeover was in fact funded from his own personal wealth. He was quick to talk about his background in real estate and construction, amongst many other things. The facts are that Dej is indeed an investor or a director in 19 different Thai companies. For more information on this, you can read the trust reports on these findings. To save some time, however, these investments have turned out less than fruitful. And I really would recommend that you seek out the article, as it does paint a very bleak financial picture for our Dej. To add to this, Dear Dej, to date, has registered several UK companies post the takeover. These firms have had minimal or no trading history, yet some have appeared as club sponsors. Incidentally, is anyone able to tell me a story of them being picked up by D-taxis? Or what is everyone's favourite flavour of Elevate energy drink? In short, some have suggested, by people far more financially literate than myself, that the financial footing of Sheffield Wednesday has long been built on foundations of sand. This has been backed up by the warnings in the accounts. A lack of transparency has been there in the breadcrumbs, with the club remaining entirely dependent on the personal funding of Dear Dej, with no clear long-term strategy. As Wednesday fans, we have been told for too long we are dependent on him to survive. Now let's take a turn here to look at some of these key figures within Sheffield Wednesday's infrastructure. To begin with, let's deal with the actual footballing adults in the room. So, in April 2015, a 3-man sporting committee was established to help Dej and to provide the football knowledge that he so sorely lacked. Glenn Roeder, Adam Pearson, and then manager Stuart Gray. They were all appointed to make sound footballing decisions. Pearson lasted a month before being replaced by Paul Senior and Jonathan Hill, both of whom joined in May 2015. Gray was unceremoniously sacked and replaced by Carlos Carvajal in June. Wednesday went on a tear of signing many new players: Fernando Forestieri, Alex Lopez, Gary Hooper, Daniel Padilla, Lucas Xiao, Marco Matthias and club legend Barry Bannon, to name a few. Wednesday were not messing around. Whilst not paying stupid money, they were throwing their new financial weight around. And by November and December, Senior, Hill and Roeder all left, bringing an end to the committee and the last few drops of footballing sense in decision-making terms. At the same time, in another corridor of Sheffield 6, several other individuals were incorporated into the Sheffield Wednesday management structure during and after the takeover. These were individuals who were less recognisable to English football fans. Some of these held formal positions. Others operated on an informal consultancy basis. It has been suggested, however, that all of these individuals had influence on decision-making at Sheffield Wednesday. The first character I would like to introduce you to is Pete PM Pong Sant. Now, you are familiar with his father, Pyroj. You remember him from the Reading and the Leicester takeover. He's our Dave's mate, a director of Empire Asia, the go-to man for getting Thai money into English football. The broker who sorted the deal for Reading was involved at Leicester. It's not him, it's his son. Pete appeared alongside Dej and Milan Mandaric during the takeover discussions in 2014-15. Now, Pete was never given an official role at the club, but he remained involved in the business until mid-2016, when the club announced his departure. Supporters learned that he had been the head of international recruitment. I mean, firstly, does anyone remember this? Secondly, this has led many to wonder and speculate, what are the motivations and who is pulling the strings, much like reporters in Berkshire did of his father back in 2016. Was he indeed acting as the head of international recruitment, or was he actually acting on behalf of the interests of the company his father was the director of? I suppose there is only one man who can tell us the truth. The next character is Sathian Amarka Sarwong. Just for clarity, we'll call him Seth. Seth was the managing director of T Holding Company, a distributor of TUF products, and another individual with absolutely no footballing background. Now, leaked emails have revealed that he was included in key decision-making, including managerial recruitment. His involvement just illustrates how individuals from Dej's Thai business network became embedded in club operations regardless of footballing expertise. His close association to Empire Asia directors through the Reading photos that can be seen in the photographs here left fans wondering, what does he do? Next, allow me to introduce you to Dejphon Chansiri, who let's refer to him as Aki. In 2016, Aki described himself as assistant to Dear Dej. In Thailand, he was the managing director of a jewellery company. At Wednesday, he became another non-footballing figure in the trusted inner circle. And finally, a character you should all be very familiar with, stood next to Pete Dejphon Sant, the lovable teddy bear that is Amadou Paixão. Now, for more information on Amadou and his connections to the now disbanded company Doyen, please go and watch our last video on him. I will say no more on him at this point, but to borrow a Phoenix Knights quote when discussing the Fire Marshal Keith Lark.
And there's no smoke without fire.
The question that needs to be asked at this junction, and that has been asked by several fans in the past few months, what was driving the decision-making at Sheffield Wednesday, and what was the motivation? Just before we return to that question, I'm going to go back to his associates here around Dear Dej. Pyroj, the chairman of Empire Asia, we know his son Pete was here for the early years, acting as head of international recruitment, confirmed by the club. Well, Pyroj is actually the chairman of another company, Inter Carabao Limited, the UK subsidiary of Carabao, the energy drink. This was incorporated in 2015 at the offices of Brown McLeod, another company that is important. Why, I hear you ask, is this important? Well, the accountancy firm has ties to both Reading and Sheffield Wednesday, through a managing partner who held directorships and company secretary roles across multiple football-related entities, and is indeed named as an advisor alongside John Redgate, Catherine Mayer, and others in a matter of a sports resolution transcript of the EFL Disciplinary Commission between the EFL and Sheffield Wednesday. Does seem to be a lot of connections between these two clubs, doesn't there? Incidentally, Brown McLeod was the accountancy firm who valued a crumbling rust bucket full of charm in Hillsborough at the purchase price of £40 million minimum, later recorded as £60 million. Now, it must be stated here that it is on record as the company who valued Hillsborough is in no way connected to Sheffield Wednesday. By the letter of the law, this is true, but some have speculated that its managing partner, having a close relationship with the club, surely raises legitimate questions about the potential conflicts of interests. But here we are getting into the spirit of company law, and whilst incredibly dull and tedious, it has to be said there is no legal foothold in this. I really hope you're still with me. Now, please allow me to wonder aloud what someone in these people's shoes may do. And remember, these are simply theories. I think it's fair to say that the uncertainty over the funding or motivations of the individuals now placed in Dej's inner circle were a ticking time bomb, just waiting for someone to come along with a match. Now, suppose I am someone with a wealth of footballing connections. I have been able to facilitate deals at a number of clubs, have been able to successfully place a range of advisors at these clubs. Someone who operates in the same circles as super agents like Kia Jorbachim or Pini Jahavi. One of football's most influential intermediaries. Or, I don't know, Doyen Sports. Someone like Javi, who you can read more about from the Guardian article by Rob Davis and Simon Locke, was closely connected to Pyroj during Thaksin Srinivasa's ownership at Manchester City. Pyroj, who was a director at Empire Asia and helped to broker the Reading deal. His son Pete was now head of international recruitment at Sheffield Wednesday. Now, some have suggested that this tangled spiderweb of relationships highlights how Wednesday's day-to-day running has been interwoven with agents and finance figures, leading fans to wonder aloud, indeed many have done so in particular on the South Stand this year, is the club running the interest of the fans and its future, or is it shaped by a network of advisors, financiers and agents, whose motivations are more aligned with their own interest than that of the club's? Again, I guess the only ones who know are the individuals involved. So coming back to the top, well, there are a few things to consider, from Leicester's creative sponsorship to Reading and Sheffield Wednesday's shadow investors. The trail of breadcrumbs is there for those who wish to follow it and interpret it so. Key figures involved at all clubs with little direct football experience, agents and intermediaries appearing across multiple clubs, and sponsorship and valuations that raise more questions than answers. The DC era was presented as the investment of a wealthy individual, and on the one hand it could be said that there is truth to this. On the other hand, however, more recently in Sheffield, the conversation amongst many has been far more complex than just one fool and his money. It has been said that without this network of Thai investors, advisors and intermediaries, indeed, the selling chairman of both Leicester and Sheffield Wednesday, Milan Mandaric, this series of connections was instrumental in both Wednesday and Reading takeovers. Figures like Pyroj, his son Pete, and the lovable teddy bear of Amadou have all left fingerprints across the clubs that they have touched. Both clubs were left decimated after this network was finished with the clubs, and fans have been left to fight for the club's survival. The ownership and funding questions still remain at Sheffield Wednesday, with questions still persisting about the true independence and the actual wealth of the owner. In short, where does dear Dej get his money from? Lastly, and more worryingly, one individual recently stated that the presence of these figures and private equity firms have been so deeply embedded in club operations. Can a club just truly be a football club with the focus in the right areas? Or is there just too many people with too many mouths to feed? Lastly, let's finish here with a personal plea to the newly appointed IFR, Mr. David Cogan. As Sheffield Wednesday fans, we have endured a decade of decline in all areas of the football club. All we want from you is to be proactive in demanding transparency, enforcing good governance, and ensuring a sustainable financial management. And lastly, let our voices be heard. Fans are the lifeblood of any football club. Our clubs across the country deserve protection from those who wish to exploit it. Our communities deserve custodians who understand that football clubs are not merely a business asset to be manipulated in hidden networks. For too long, we have been told at Sheffield Wednesday, without Dej, there is no Wednesday. The reality is, without us, the fans, there is no Wednesday. And he now knows this. And he's scared to death and clinging on with every fibre of his being. Do the right thing for everyone here. Help him move on. You alone have the tools and the mandate to ensure that this never happens again here or elsewhere. Thank you very much for joining us all. Take care.